we're looking at sports in general. Competitive balance is a measure of how competitive the games are, how competitive the league is, differences between the best and the worst teams, so forth. And so, the more balanced competition is, the more uncertainty there is going into a given game, a given season, whatever it may be, of who the actual winner will be, the outcome of that game or season. So, a couple of questions, why do we study competitive balance? One is from the fan's perspective. From the fan's point of view, an uncertain outcome in a game is much more interesting than when it's a foregone conclusion. Fans would rather see, two teams where you don't know if the team's going to win or lose than a game where, with a high amount of certainty which team is going to win. It makes the game more interesting. Historically, fans have shown displeasure when there is a lack of competition, even if their own team did the winning. And so, for example, the Cleveland Browns in the 40s were so dominant in the All-American Football Conference that they became less popular with their home fans. In baseball, the New York Yankees in the American League from 1950 to 58 won 6 World Series. But during that period, when there was overall economic growth, the attendance for the Yankee games and the American League as a whole either leveled off or fell as the Yankees dominated the league. This is in contrast to the National League, which had 4 different champion teams, where attendance grew substantially. Overall, fans just want to see games or seasons where it's more of an unknown. So from the owner's perspective, the owners want to make money. Okay? And so competitive balance matters to them because, as I talked about, if there's a lack of competitive balance, the fans lose interest, which hurts the owners. And so the owners want to help to ensure that there is more competitive balance so that they make more money. And because of this, leagues will often adopt and promote competitive balance through different ways. And other way, this can be done either with changing the rules or enforcing the rules more strictly so that it is more of a fair competition. And so, for example, in auto racing, NASCAR measures each car to ensure the dimensions of the car match with the regulations, and so everyone is has the same advantage in terms of there. Okay. Now, another reason why owners may need to take action is, if you recall back what we were talking about before, the difference in goals of maximizing wins versus maximizing profits. And so, in some cases, teams will just worry about maximizing their profits at the expense of maximizing wins, and this creates imbalance in the competition. And so when that happens, it becomes apparent a lot of times the leagues need to step in to change the rules there to help to promote more competition, which helps the league as a whole. Now, there is a pretty big difference when it comes to, or difference in opinions, when it comes to the impact of market size on competitive balance. So basically, the theory would be that smaller market teams would not be able to afford as much in terms of player salaries, and so in order to remain profitable, and so they would not be able to have the higher level of competition and be as good. In reality, though, it's not as black and white, and the reason why is, yes, some of the big market teams do have more money, which allows them to compete. For example, you will a lot of times see the big market teams, especially the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, pay a lot for players, and then win more games and championships as a result. But it's not always the case. There are a lot of teams that are more small market teams in baseball who have, especially in recent years, had more success. And when you talk about other leagues, it's not as much the case. Now, a big reason why is because a lot of the other leagues have salary caps, and they also have a high amount of revenue sharing, which Major League Baseball has as well. But just a couple things to kind of keep in mind. And so, just a little bit of history of competitive balance in sports. From in Major League Baseball from 2012 to 2016, 5 different teams won 5 World Series in that year. Looking at basketball, going back to baseball, but there were periods where the New York Yankees were predominantly winning a lot of the championships. The Boston Celtics won every NBA championship but one between 1959 and 1969. The Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup 10 times between 1965 and 79. Then you had the Islanders, who won the next 4 years. And so there has been a lot of disparity in the quality and during different periods in those. Football, the NFL has had the most competitive balance, and no team has won a championship more than 2 times in a row. And only a few teams have won 5 or more, while 2 teams, the Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions, had never appeared in the Super Bowl. And so it's really a lot of disparity and changing over time. The NBA kind of goes through periods. NHL, baseball tends to have a little bit less competition. College sports, and especially college football, tends to have a lot of uneven competition. And the reason why is the bigger schools can afford to give more scholarships. They can recruit more. And so you only see a few schools tend to win the national championship. Now, when we talk about competitive balance, there are 2 ways that can be discussed, and these will be discussed separately. So looking at the 2 ways to measure competitive balance, the first way is looking at within season variation. And this looks at team performance over a given season. And so with the within season, you look at how all teams are doing and the difference between those teams within that season. If there's a wide dispersion of winning percentages, that means that some teams are much better than others in that season. The second way to kind of look is across multiple seasons. And so this is the across seasons variation. And when you do this, you're looking at not just necessarily wins and losses by team within a season, but you're looking at the concentration of championships or turnover in overall league standings over that period. And so leagues with a high concentration of championships have a small set of teams winning percentages year after year. Okay. And so these are the 2 ways that we will be discussing in the next couple of videos.